So there have been some problems over the past few days, and I'll mix these topics into two, and I'll start with, I guess, why people rally behind causes rather than the Elon Musk situation. So it's pretty simple to explain because I see this sometimes on just the internet in general, on social media. People just accuse others of joining a cause for essentially no reason, just to be with people or something, and this is very disconnected from the reality of it, because nobody is doing that. I can almost guarantee you on that. And the proof for it really that not being the case is people aren't doing this for no reason. There is obviously a reason. And one of them could involve wanting to meet people. But again, this requires people understand why they're there and obviously have a good reason to be part of said cause. When I'm talking about a cause, I mean something like a protest or a march. Anything like that. And so, all of this, some of the reasons I've come up with why people rally behind them. And the first one was really about addressing some of the claims that are made. So, the first one is not necessarily because I'm wanting to find a group or appear self-righteous. So, yeah, again, there's a reason behind why people do this, and the intent is not to appear as part of a group or self-righteous, because I guarantee you people don't want to do that. Like, it's an obvious thing really where people don't want to appear that way because it does discredit them, although there is no reason to discredit them. So essentially that claim goes right out the window because, again, causes are by definition a cause. There is something behind it. It's not self-righteousness, it's literally a reason, and one that can be explained. Which goes into the next thing actually, the next point, second point. They rally because of facts, be it study or logic. You'll see this a lot nowadays, and there's even been like direct action as well, like various activism events that do the same thing. This is like the same thing as a cause. The reason why you see people, for example, blocking the highways for climate change isn't to actually cause disruption, but rather to grab attention. And the attention is to be drawn to the thing they're protesting. And unfortunately, a lot of people just look past it, which is incredibly dangerous because, well, you need to understand why people are there, otherwise you're looking at it at face value and thinking, oh, these people are just being annoying. But that's not even the truth, so that shows people's priorities there. And of course, like, the reason why people would protest something like climate change is because there is an actual problem. The world could end sooner than we think just because of climate change. It could end by 2030, it could even end by 2040 if we actually put measures in. But we're trying to delay the inevitable by doing that. So, yeah, that's generally why it's a serious issue. That's why people do it, why people take drastic action. The third reason I've got here is a change of mind. It's a very simple one, actually. I used to fall down various pipelines of garbage, really, on the internet and YouTube and stuff. I was convinced of various different things, like, for example, homophobia and transphobia, and even anti-immigration. And likewise, I've also done more research on that in recent years, and I've come up with different reasons to not believe that anymore, because there is literally no proof of the thing that I was supporting. And without any proof, I could change back in an instant. But of course, this change of mind is, again, caused by pro-evidence. Like, that's literally what it is, because people are pro-evidence or anti-evidence. And it's very, very well demonstrated in places like America, or even just the Elon Musk situation, which I'll bring up. So changes of mind are literally one of the reasons. Of course, it's backed by facts and logic, like the previous points. But that's generally why people can rally behind something, and I've definitely noticed this myself recently with a topic like Palestine, for example, where I now support the Palestinian people because they're doing nothing wrong. They're being killed by tens of thousands for one reason, which is an exaggeration of a terrorist attack, which apparently may or may not be caused by them. And so I side with them because they've not only, like, there's no talks happening. This is the difference here. If Israel were talking to Palestine to get an answer for this, for the terrorist attack, and they were trying to defend it, like, yeah, go to war. Like, I'm all for that because fucking hell, that's horrible. Putting your country in jeopardy, or supposedly Palestine is a country, or state as it's now termed, just for the sake of justifying a terrorist act is in itself immoral. But does it justify the genocide of innocent women and children? No. Because the rational thing to do would be to put them in POW camps instead of bombing their fucking city to the ground. So that's one of the things where I've changed my mind. It's like, okay, Palestinian people are innocent, but people are not willing to change their viewpoints, so that ends up harming them, including the ones perpetuating this. That actually brings up the fourth point, which I have such an interest, and this happened to me recently with Palestine and even US politics. It's important because it does mean that there's an actual reason for this. Like, people need to have an interest in something to rally behind it, and it does come in the form sometimes of an actual interest. It's can be concerning as well because sometimes the interest isn't founded or anything. Yeah, like, it's a weird situation. I'm trying to concentrate here. In general, like, there's different reasons why people gain interest. It's not really hard to figure out. It's the same way that you discover a food you like and you're like, oh, I want to learn about this. Next thing actually ties into that sort of thing. It's about feeling emotional and passionate about a topic. And yeah, that's why people tend to have a stronger voice when they talk about these issues. It's because there is a genuine passion and emotional state around this topic. And that's important because people can relate on an emotional level. If you look at things like Palestine, like, people are going to be stronger towards it if they have children themselves, because it is women and children are fucking dying there. It's such a fucked up situation. Gotta clear my throat. But it's along the lines of like, oh, I can relate to this, or like, I can see how this would badly impact me myself. There's a lot of different reasons why people might be emotional about it. And also, how do you really justify killing over 20,000 children? But seriously, think about that. Because that would be a very hard thing to justify, even if you disagree with either the religion or the state itself. It just doesn't make sense. Again, prisoner of war. That's all it takes. No, they didn't do that. Instead, they made them prisoner of state. So, yeah. So the next thing I have is... Wait, I just gotta proof check this. I don't think I actually need to at this point. It's addressing the Elon Musk point, and it sort of relates to it anyway. Though it's a slightly different topic. The youth are less interested in politics. I think this is generally true because it tends to be the case that their voice falls on deaf ears, and people get fed up with it. Like, seriously. It ends up being a harmful narrative when someone on an opposing side who opposes their being will continue to do so, and that ends up harming the young people because it's their future. And it should ideally be up to young people to decide what the hell they do with their life and how they run a country. It isn't really hard to figure out. It's actually really simple. So, youth are generally less interested anyway, just for that reason, because it almost seems pointless and it seems very defeating. And that brings up the Elon Musk thing, because this is where things get crazy. So Elon Musk recently went onto a video chat supposedly with Tommy Robinson, London protest, and this shit is just so dumb, unnecessary, because it essentially means that what they advocate for, what Elon Musk advocates for here, is political violence, which is what happened to Charlie Kirk recently. It doesn't matter what leaning you are, murder is just objectively wrong. And I'll admit, I used to be of the case that there was a good reason to inflict violence. But now I've changed my mind, and I don't think it's the same anymore. I think it's better to lead by example, and obviously protest peacefully as we have done for years, as many have done for years. This is important for a lot of reasons. It's to lead by example, it's to show that people are wrong when it comes to something like political violence or just like one-sidedness or even just battles or anything like that. It's to really prove a point and lead by example and do better for the world overall. Whereas something like a war will result in many deaths and many suffering. That's not what people want. That's why it's dangerous. So Elon Musk specifically says you have to fight back before they kill you or something, and that's a dangerous thing to say, just on the outset. It's not healthy either, because it's basically something that's not backed by evidence. And this is one of the dangers of saying things without backing it with evidence. The claim is that people who are not leaning far right are going to fight back and kill you, essentially. But this isn't the case, because when you look into it, when you look into what the left do, what even like the centrists do, it is not anything like that. It is in fact the complete opposite to what Musk is saying. It is the fact that most of the time anyway, they want to establish equality. They want to establish proper workers' rights and equal pay. Whereas people on the right, and they don't seem to understand this, they want to advocate for no workers' rights or pay and no equality. Which means there's going to be a divide, and that will result in more violence. That's currently what happens. If you look at neighbourhoods filled with people of colour, there tend to be higher rates of crime at the moment, just because they're so underfunded, and they're forced into these situations, and sometimes they're even forced to work jobs that nobody else would, like farm work, or even like, I can't think of the other one, there's definitely another one, but they work these grueling jobs that nobody else will, because they're low pay, but they pay overly. And it's not good. This is why crime seems to happen. They end up turning to things like drugs to either cope or sell. They turn to things like gun violence to claim territory and also claim goods. And this is what happens when you push people into this neighbourhood. It's not something taught to them, it's not something ingrained. It's something that literally happens because you put them there to begin with. And it does happen because of the party you align with. That's what all the evidence points to. And that's why it's important to look at the evidence. It's just extremely dangerous to make claims like this, where one side is more dangerous than the other. When in reality, the opposite is true. Like, it's just crazy how this is like a accusation, which is actually a confession. That's literally what's happening here. So I've been saying more often now. And that's really all you need to know about this. Yeah, nobody actually believes that murder is the right thing to do. Those that do, like even my former self, it was basically completely founded on something unreasonable and not even morally correct for that matter. Because people tend to compare this to like, what would you do if Hitler was alive and still doing the Holocaust? Like, would you assassinate him? And it's like, yeah, I guess, like, it's tempting. But does it actually solve the core problem? Does it solve the problem that many people have, where this is a situation in which there's people waiting in line to take its place and enact the same thing? That's where this argument sort of falls apart. It's like there's already people waiting for that position, so it just doesn't work. So let's go to the bathroom. Bloody hell. So I forgot where I was, but I'll just reiterate again. So what Musk is saying is basically extremely dangerous, because it will cause more political violence, and this is not what anyone wants. It's more true for left leaning, I will say, because that's objectively what the evidence says. Because obviously we advocate for equality and human rights, meaning that if you do align with right leaning in politics, you have a right yourself to both express your opinion and to ask for protection from those sorts of rights, like some of those beliefs even. So you're not alone in this, which is what the right actually want you to think. They want you to think you're absolutely alone and you're against a big, giant baddie. But that simply isn't true. So the argument does fall flat in that case. And the other thing to mention is what Musk is saying, other than being extremely dangerous, is also very hypocritical. And I say this because he's a billionaire. He would have it his way, in that the fact that he would allow slavery of not just minorities but also you, the far right voters. Because that's all billionaires care about. They care about getting money and getting what they want. They don't care about people. And simply everything they do is just to build an empire and probably a spaceship to escape this burning planet. Let's not kid ourselves, it's not out of the realm of possibility. But this is where it's heading at the moment, and at the moment people are supporting the political violence narrative by supporting Elon Musk. So that's not good, and people do need to change their opinions now, because this is incredibly dangerous. It's such a dangerous belief to have. It will rupture the planet as it has already in like Nepal. It's going to cause too many problems, and the only way to address this is to properly do your research, look for evidence, and just be smarter about it. Don't take things at face value, look into them, because that's the only way you're going to find any sort of proper evidence, any reasoning even. So that's really where that is at the moment. I think I've said everything I can at this point. Yeah, also it just helps to talk to people on the opposite side, because I see at the protests that people are just like Why are you wearing a mask? That's my impression of a protester there, but why is the question about a mask that they're wearing? Like, these questions are easily answered, because there's two reasons why someone would be wearing a mask. First one, if it's a face mask, it's because of COVID. They don't want to catch it because either they're vulnerable to it, meaning they could be hospitalised, or they just simply don't want to catch it because of discomfort and just being safe. And also, a lot of other viruses are transmitted through the particles in the air just by speaking and opening your mouth. And that releases all these different particles. They can come through the nose as well. But the other reasons people want anonymity, and that's important for a lot of reasons as well. Some people don't want their face to be seen, and they want it for protection. Because in a case of this protest, someone can record them and, oh, I know that guy, that's a Britannia McGee from 10 Downward Street, something like that. And sorry for Miss McGee there, if I dox you, but this is just an example. I'm not actually trying to dox anyone, it's just an example. But yeah, like, that's the situation. And I don't think there are really many people smart enough to actually be able to dox someone like that, but even then, it's better to be safe than sorry in that case, because it does mean that people's mental health are affected, and even their livelihoods are affected by the fact that they stay anonymous and they stay unseen. Because it can mean they're targets of political violence again, which is important here, which is what Elon Musk is advocating for. But it also means that they can become targets of another thing entirely, like a broken economic system, which currently a lot of people are. And that's why they want to stay protected. Like, they don't want people contacting their workplace, they don't want that sort of thing. So there's various different reasons why. So yeah, when I look at this process, it's like there's not any logic applied here. It's just trying to attack the image, and this is the other thing I forgot to mention, which is really important. The thing with the far-right protest, and even people who align with the far-right, because yeah, like, let's not kid ourselves, like, people who say they're not far-right, who are advocating for ideas of people who lean far-right, which does make you far-right in that case. That's what's causing the problems here, and there's also this problem of having this image in the case that people on the right want to appear stronger somehow than people on the left, which again isn't healthy, because it means that someone is essentially weaker in their eyes, and that's not a good look to have. And on top of the fact there's higher rates of like domestic abuse among people who align with the right, there's a bunch of horrific things, even more paedophiles there, by the way. And that's something that commonly the left gets accused of, when, again, evidence doesn't really show anything about that. And nobody's actually looking into it, because it doesn't really matter. If someone's a paedophile or not, it doesn't fucking matter. Because, again, it's such an irrelevant point. It means nothing to the conversations, and whether someone has it or not, because it is technically a paraphilic disorder, it means that it's not changeable. In that case, it needs treatment, rather than condemnation or even just murder. Because frankly, it can be murder if people are advocating for like death penalties, which I see a lot of people doing anyway. And this is also ignoring the fact that someone won't necessarily do so in that case. So yeah, I think I've touched on everything. Like, caring about the image of others and yourself is extremely dangerous. Like, it's just very bad for these situations, and it needs to stop. You know, caring about self-image, let alone how others look, is just dangerous. Again, it's like taking something at face value. Like you could see something like a sign outside on a shop that says like, "Oh, this is a slaughterhouse for people," and it seems like, oh, this sounds suspicious. It sounds like a place where cannibals meet. But you go in and you find out it's actually just like a fucking vegan shop. Like, oh, thank fuck. So they don't eat people, that's good. But this is what I mean, like taking things at face value is extremely dangerous. It doesn't help anyone, it serves to cause a divide. It just never works. And I've never seen a case really where face value actually works. Because there's often a deeper meaning, there's a deeper reason behind things. And you can't really trust what some sources say, really. Like, it's just unbelievably mad. And also being taken out of context, which again does ruin an image. I see it a lot online, but I also see it in real life as well. It sucks. Taking things out of context just isn't a healthy thing to do. It will lead to a tarnished image, but also the people who even cause this sort of thing to happen, they themselves need to be held accountable. And that's why I think Elon Musk in this case needs to be held accountable, as well as all Republicans in the US, saying that Charlie Kirk's death was a result of Democrats, which we don't even know for sure if it was. So they need to be held accountable for spreading misinformation, but also inciting political violence. So that's where we are now. That's all I'm going to say on this. So thanks for listening. I'll see you on another time.